Welcome to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low voltage industry connects. Hosted by Chuck Bowser, RCDD, we're here to empower installers, designers, and industry pros with the tips, stories, and best practices you need to stay ahead. From copper to fiber, standards to innovation, this is the show that keeps you plugged into success. So grab your tools, turn up the volume, and let's talk cabling. Let's Talk Cabling, your source for low voltage expertise and connection.
Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That can only mean one thing. Live, after hours, with your favorite RCDD. And you know that's me. You know I'm your favorite RCDD. A lot of talk to you tonight about installation, design, certification, project management, estimation, career path, whatever crosses your mind. Put your questions in the chat box. I got 4 questions tonight. I'm pretty sure those 4 questions will fill the I'm gonna say class. We'll fill up the evening, but just in case, go ahead and put your questions in the chat box. Now, we always got to start off with, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? Go ahead and put that in the chat box. I'm drinking a ginger ale Zevia, as usual, in my tumbler cup filled with ice and water. Tell us in the chat box, what are you drinking? Kaylin's drinking water. And it's a good thing because I need it, because I tell you what, I just tried to do this live stream tonight up on the top of the hill in the new podcast studio. I tried, but the problem was it wasn't working. So I had to come down here and reset up everything last minute. Oops. I hate when that happens. So there we go. So if you see a little sweat on my brow, it's because I'm still cooling off, because I don't have the AC running up there yet. I got a portable AC up there, but I didn't turn it on because I got a fan going in there, one of the big industrial fans, and I love that fan. It moves air around, but it sucks when you're trying to have a microphone in front of it. So I got on a little early. My good friend George Humphrey and the TikTok he got on, and I said, Chuck, it's a little buggy, so I had to pack everything up and come on down here. So there you go. That's probably more information than you needed to know. Acronym challenge. DVD. What does DVD stand for? Go ahead and tell us in the chat box. Somebody says it's 8 a.m. in Oz. We're having Foster's beer for breakfast. Oz, you mean Australia? Oh, cool. You're watching all the way from Australia? That's pretty stinking cool. I'll tell you what. Send me, direct message me your emailing address, and I will send you a sticker for being the furthest person to watch tonight's show. Australia. That's wicked cool. Anyway, acronym challenge. DVD. What does that mean? Come on. Somebody's got to know the meaning of this thing, right? DVD. You know that's my acronym challenge. It's not digital video disc like a lot of people seem to think it is. Okay? What does DVD... Oh, I got to turn on the chat box over here so I can see people responding to me. There we go. Sean, water in my Milwaukee cup. Hey. Oh, no, wait a minute. My tumbler, here's my other tumbler. It's a Milwaukee cup, too. I have a Milwaukee tumbler, too. So just so you know, Sean, I tried to do the broadcast up in the new podcast studio so you can see my pack-out kit, my mod box, and a whole bunch of other stuff, so... But I was having some connectivity issues because it wasn't working. So DVD, what does it stand for? Acronym challenge. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds. But while you're typing in, I want to say congratulations to the 2 newest RCDDs from the Let's Talk Cabling family. First one is Shane O'Neill, RCDD Tech. He's a fan of the show. He's been listening for many years. I met him at a BICSI conference. I've even taught him in my day job at his location. I don't know if he wants me to say where he works, but I've actually taught him. So Shane knows me, knows the podcast. He got his RCDD, and he said thank you to me for helping him. Rob Hurst, RCDD, CTSI. He shot me a message this week saying, after listening to the show for a number of years, he decided to pursue his RCDD. So while I didn't actually mentor him, I inspired him to get his new RCDD. So 2 brand spanking new RCDDs this week. Congratulations, gentlemen. Now, my next question to you is, what are you going to do to pay it forward? To pay forward. DVD, so it stands for Digital Versatile Disc. Digital Versatile Disc. There we go. So I mentioned that I tried to kick off tonight's show up in the podcast studio. So that way you could see the work boxes I put in and the pull box I put in and I put up some other stuff too but I haven't run a cable from the shop up to here. So I was trying to do Wi-Fi and it just wasn't strong enough. So 5 minutes left. I had to come running back down here and keep in the studio. So my goal is to get this podcast studio up and running soon, real soon. Speaking of the podcast, I want to thank some studio sponsors. There are several people who are donating equipment. First one, Harger Lightning Protection. Okay, Harger, Adam Cash, great guy. Met him at a BICSI conference. He sent me some bus bars, some 2-hole long barrel connectors, some number 6, and a crimper, and a couple ground rods. And so thank you, Adam, for sending that stuff. I already made one video of installing the ground rod. I'm going to make other videos on installing the bus bar, installing the 2-hole connectors, all that other stuff. Second, I want to thank David Lampfair from RCDD. Can't forget that. David Lampfair from RCDD. David Lampfair, RCDD, from Invent. They are sending me a whole bunch of green J-hooks. Green J-hooks. So thank you for that, Invent. And then special sponsor this week, Scott Hammond from Hammond Manufacturing. They're sending me some ladder rack, some accessories, some dropouts, some ladder rack feet, wall mount kits, the whole entire thing. There's to build out the ladder rack for the podcast studio. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, if you would like to donate equipment to the podcast studio and have me make videos on how to install it, use it, terminate it, get in contact with me. Or if you know somebody, say, man, Chuck really should do a video on such and such. Contact them. Say, hey, I listen to this podcast. Maybe you should donate some stuff to him so he can do a video on it. I'm fine with that too, right? Some things I would really like to do. 66 blocks. Oh my gosh, that's a good one, Hunter. That is a good one. I'm going to buy me some 66 blocks and make a video out of that. Because there's 89D blocks, B blocks. You can wire it up like a premise technician or a splicer. I can talk about the split 50s or the M150s. I could do a 30-minute video on 66 blocks. 31-minute one. LOL. So yeah, so I definitely want to do. I want to do an episode or two on PoE equipment, PoE devices, because that's a new hot thing. I was talking to Tyler Andrews from PoE Texas, and he was telling me that they've got this film that you can put on glass and you hook it up to your PoE equipment, and when you turn it on, it makes it opaque. You can't see through it. Man, that's perfect for a studio, right? Maybe AV systems. I love to jam out the music while I'm working, right? And security systems. I got to put a security system around my podcast studio. So, you know, if you know manufacturer who might donate the system and the cameras and the cable and everything, have them get in touch with me, right? Also, if you live in Central Florida, anywhere between the triangle of Tampa, Orlando, and Ocala, I'm putting in conduit in my podcast studio. I'm real good putting in conduit, you know, stub ups and stub outs. I am not so good at doing saddle bends. So I need someone to come up here to the podcast studio to show me how to do those bends, those saddle bends. I'm not good at those. So but I can do stub up and stub out. So that's a show coming up, is the conduit. Then I'm going to put up the walls, the 3/4-inch AC grade plywood. And then I'm going to put in the anti-static flooring that I've had for about a year and a half. And so lots of stuff going on with the podcast studio. Getting real excited about putting it in and looking forward to doing all that stuff. So let's get to the questions. Guys, it's 10 minutes after. I haven't got to the first question yet. Question number 1. And I feel bad because I lost this person's name. The question came to me on TikTok, I believe, or maybe it was Instagram. And I usually take a screen snapshot of it and save it on my phone to do the show with. But this person asked me, he said, Chuck, can I plug an APC fiber optic patch cord into a UPC fiber adapter panel? Just to repeat that, APC fiber patch cord, can I plug it into a UPC fiber adapter panel? And the quick answer to that is no. No, you can't. You don't want to. You have all kinds of problems if you do. Now, for those who may not know APC and UPC, the PC in APC and UPC stands for physical contact. It used to stand for polished connector, but we don't do very many polished connectors anymore nowadays. So now it's mechanical or fusion splicing. So they changed it to physical contact. So APC is an angle physical contact connector, which means the end face has about an 8-degree angle to it. Okay, 8-degree angle to it. And that's used a lot for cable TV. I'll explain that here in just a minute. Right, so it's got the 8-degree end face. UPC has a flat face, 90-degree face, and it's actually got a little bit of a bevel to it. Right, so you can't really put them together. What happens? Well, number one, you're gonna have mismatched alignments for these connectors. Again, the APC's got that 8-degree angled end face, and the UPC has that slight, the 90-degree with a slight dome to it. That's gonna you're not gonna, if you even get physical contact, it's gonna be poor physical contact. And what's that going to really result into for you? An increased insertion loss. Because of those misalignments, because air is attenuated or light, so those cores aren't actually touching each other. So you're going to have a higher typical loss far beyond what's allowed by acceptable limits. You're also going to have high return loss or reflections. Again, that UPC connector, it's really designed for losses of negative 55 dB. An APC, it's designed for losses of for negative 65 dB. So there's a 10 dB difference there. And that mismatch can cause reflections, and those reflections are going to disrupt the data transmission, especially with high speed. And that's what you're using fiber for, right? High speed data or analog systems. You're also taking the chance on damaging those end faces because, FOA, Fiber Optic Association, there's some great free training out there. And I think it was FOA where I saw this. But when you make two fiber optic connectors together, there's 2.2 pounds of pressure holding them together. Now, 2.2 pounds of pressure doesn't sound like a lot, but when you divide it out by the surface area that's actually touching, that's 40,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. So now you've got them put together pretty hard. And that's going to lead to not just damage, permanent damage. Permanent damage. And if you need any other reason, it's a violation per the standards, the 568 standards, and also the IEC 61755-3-1. Yeah, so it's a violation of those. Best practice, always use an APC to an APC, a UPC to a UPC. I remember doing a customer sent me a picture because our fiber stuff is not working right, so we're having problems. And when I looked at the picture, I realized pretty quickly that they had an APC plugged into a UPC. How did I know that? How did I know that? Because an APC connector is green. UPC is blue. So they had a green adapter panel and a blue fiber optic patch cord sticking into that. So there you go. Recommendations coming on from TikTok from Olaps Z2888. Recommendations for CECs to maintain BICSI RCD. BICSI courses are pricey. You're absolutely spot on correct about that. And I really need to collect because I got a lot of resources and collect and put them in a document so I can send them out to people. So I'm just going to do these off the top of my head. Okay. First one, Cable Installation and Maintenance Magazine. Go to cableinstall.com. At the very top, there'll be a thing that says webcasts. Click on webcasts. And at any given time, they have between 5 and 10 webinars right there that you can watch, each of them 1 hour in length. Free, by the way. Free. Okay. Another free one. A lot of the manufacturers have free training. Let me think of one right now. Corning has one almost weekly. I did not know that. I'm going to have to get that link from you, Hunter, when we get into the RC study group. Bright Talk often will have free 1 hour classes for CECs. Brother P Touch, the labeling people, they got a couple free webinars. Leviton has a few. I even got four classes for CECs. Fire stopping, CCA cabling, codes versus standards, and bonding and grounding. So there's lots of ways that you can get your CECs. Make sure that you utilize those. I'll create that list so that way I have that. All right, so there you go. So next question, this one comes to me from Chuck on TikTok. Not from me, but from somebody else named Chuck. on TikTok. And it was actually a comment to a post that I did, because I did a post about cabling in residential environments. Residential environments are more tricky than doing cabling in a commercial office environment, because in a commercial office building, a lot of times you got drop tile ceilings. You just lift up the ceiling tile, run the cables, winner, chicken dinner, rock on, good to go. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But in a house, a lot of the times the ceiling is, solid, right? So it's not. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's more difficult to do cabling in residential. So the whole video was about, if you're gonna do cabling, future proof it right? If you think you need Cat 5e, do Cat 6. If you can do Cat 6, do Cat 6a. So that's what that video was about. So he said Cat 6a is twice the price of Cat 6, and with the tariffs, it's only going to get worse. Single mode fiber is the only future-proof solution. And I hear you about the price difference between Cat 6a and Cat 6. And I actually had to do some research on this, because it's been a while. It's been a while since I have priced cabling through distribution. So I had to reach out to some people. I reached out to Gray Bar, and I reached out to my friends at Cable Connections, my good buddy David. And I got some list pricing for Cat 6 and Cat 6a. And he said Cat 6 was about $300 for 1,000 feet. And this is just list pricing. You get better pricing if you buy a bunch. And it also depends on whether it's Plenum or Riser Ray. But anyways, generic, Cat 6, $300, Cat 6a, $499. That's not double the price. And now it is a significant increase. It's 66%. It's a 66% increase, so it's a good bit, but it's not quite double, right? But here's the thing. It's not like you're doubling everything. You're not doubling the cable and the labor, because it takes the same amount of labor to pull a Cat 6 cable, to terminate a Cat 6 cable, to test a Cat 6 cable, as it does to pull, terminate, test a Cat 6A cable, right? Somebody says terminations to take into consideration. That really depends on the manufacturer's jacks. Some of the Cat 6A jacks are really good. They're just as easy to do as Cat 6, right? So theoretically, those are all pretty much going to be the same. The only difference is going to be the cost of the cabling. And because of the difficulty of doing cabling in a house, I said go for Cat 6A. Now here's the thing. You said single mode fiber. I get it, man. Single mode fiber is so good that we don't have the equipment to tell us what is the maximum bandwidth we can send on a single mode fiber. It's the best cable we have. It is the best. But here's the thing. Again, I was talking about residential cabling, residential future proofing, not commercial office building. When you think about Ethernet in homes, what are people typically running their cables for? Their TV, their wireless router, their Nest device, right? Guess what? They typically don't have fiber optic connectors on the back of them. But Chuck, you can get transceivers. Yeah, well, okay, that's another added cost. Another added cost. And they go bad. They go bad. So really, single mode fiber, yeah, it's the best, but it's not always the answer. For those who may not know what future proofing means, right? It's not just about bandwidth or about speed, right? If you look at the BICSI, documentation, the TIA, future proofing is about putting in a cable that works with all of the stuff out there today and any upcoming technologies and applications. Do you know what kind of internet, what kind of wireless routers, what kind of connectivity you're going to have on your laptops 7 years from today? Probably not. Probably not. And by future proofing, you're avoiding having to do a major infrastructure overhaul. Right? And I've said this many times, the average lifespan of a structured cable plant is 7 to 10 years. 7 to 10 years. In a residential environment, it's probably going to be a little longer, 10 to 15 years, because it's so hard to pull cable. So what you do is you want to maximize your long-term value by putting in the best cable you can put in for today that makes sense. Don't do Cat 8 in your house. That Cat 8 just, there's still a lot of controversy with Cat 8. Cat 6A is going to be the best for your house. Okay. Now, like I said, future proofing with single mode fiber. Yes, single mode has a lot of bandwidth. It supports long distances, well beyond 1.2 miles. Somebody show me a house where you're going to run 1.2 miles of single mode fiber inside of that house. Right? And don't forget, fiber optic cabling is immune to EMI. Immune to EMI. What about installing the pathway versus the infrastructure? That's a great point, Hunter. So you'd have to do that during the construction. I've seen lots of people talk about Smurf tubing. You can put conduit in. You can put interduct in. If you're having a house built, yes, run the conduit system during construction, so that way you can easily swap it out. So there you go. There you go. So anyway, so when it comes to transceivers and media converters, they're just they break down. They just break down, and they add complexity to your job, to your install. So why do you even do it? So for residential cabling, Cat 6A still makes sense. It just does. Most devices have some type of a AP8C or an RJ45, and fiber's still an overkill until you start getting into the enterprise. Enterprise single mode fiber, perfect for healthcare, perfect for schools, perfect for industrial, right? Cat 6A can still do 10 gig up to 100 meters, and that's far beyond what most people have going in their house right now. Okay, far beyond what's going on in most people's house. Let's go to the next question. Alrighty, where it is? There's question number 3. This comes from Romelio Cherno from TikTok, and he says, "Does the NEC book tell us where we should be installing grounding bars in the IDFs?" The NEC? No. The NEC doesn't tell you where to install it. It's not a design specification. I've said this on more than one occasion. In 90.1, if you want to go look it up, it says it is not a design specification. It doesn't tell you what products to use. It doesn't tell you, should you use a 1/4 inch thick by 4 inch tall by however wide bus bar or a little bonding strip. It doesn't tell you. It just says it's got to be a listed product. Listed product. Right? So there are some things you do want to know when you install bus bars. But refer to the ANSI 607 bonding and grounding standard, right? For example, the primary bonding bus bar. In that standard, it's going to tell it's got to be 1/4 inch thick by 4 inches tall by however wide it needs to be, isolated from its mount. It's going to be electro-tin plated. You're going to scratch and use antioxidant for reduced contact resistance. Best place typically for the primary bonding bus bar is going to be near the entrance facility, because you got to bond the lightning protection system. You got to bond the armor jacket to the outside plant cable. You got to connect to the grounding electrode outside of the building. So you want to put that right there near that. Now, each telecom room, or IDF as you said, independent distribution frame, that's an old acronym. The new acronym is TR, telecom room. You need to have at least one secondary bonding bus bar. At least one. You can have more, but you need to have at least one. 1/4 inch thick by 2 inches tall by however wide it needs to be. Electro-tin plate. You're going to scratch and use antioxidant for reduced contact resistance. Right? The best place to mount the secondary bonding bus bar is going to be up high near the runways typically, because you want to keep your conductors as short and as straight as possible. Okay? Short and straight as possible. Question number 4. This comes from Low Volt Lou. He says, "Hey Chuck, I'm wiring up a telecom room and I keep hearing mixed opinions. Should I use a carbon block, gas tube, or solid state primary protector for my telecom entrance protection? Which one's right for the job?" Let me take you on a little trip down memory lane. I did a job once in Tampa, Florida. The humid, stormy summer of Central Florida back in the old days when I used to do work out in the field. In case you didn't know this, Florida is the lightning capital of the United States. The lightning capital of the United States. Yeah. We get anywhere between 80 and 100 thunderstorm days a year. Yeah. So we were upgrading a client's outdated POTS cabling plant, right? And we came across the surge protectors, and they had these old carbon block protectors. And these carbon block protectors were scorched from a lightning event nearby. You see, lightning doesn't actually have to hit the cable. It just has to hit the ground near the cable, right? Because when the ground is conductive, and when it's wet, it's even more conductive, right? So one of the junior techs asked me at the time, he asked me, why do we even use those kinds of protectors anymore? And the question is, we shouldn't be. We really, really shouldn't be. in the great land of the USA do you let anyone have a go at structured cabling? That depends on where you are. There's areas that almost every state you have to have a business license or a low voltage or limited energy license, and they can hire anybody they want. They don't have to be certified, and then you can teach them certified. Does that answer your question handy down under? So let's go back to those lightning protections. There's three types. Carbon blocks. The carbon blocks are the original, the old school. You literally have two carbon elements with an air gap between them. And then when that voltage spikes, the arc jumps from one across to the other, and it sends that energy to the ground. Now, carbon blocks are set to trigger between 300 and 1,000 volts. It just kind of depends, right? And they're pretty slow to respond. Usually takes more than 15 nanoseconds for a carbon block to respond. 15 nanoseconds may sound like a long time until you're getting hit with 2.5 gigawatts of power, as Dr. Brown would say. Then it's an eternity. An eternity. Also, if you're in an area country that gets a lot of lightning strikes, you'll start getting noise on your POTS lines because they're going through carbon blocks. Okay? And they're one-shot devices. Once they've been triggered, you got to take them out and go get a new one. So they're obsolete. Don't use them. Not in modern telecommunications. Now, the next one up is the gas tube protectors. Now, these ones, they're modern upgrades to the carbon blocks. They fill them with an inert gas. And when that gas gets hit with that voltage surge, it ionizes, makes that gas become conductive, and then it's going to safely divert that energy to a ground. They also have wider gaps than carbon blocks do, which translates into higher reliability for that type of fuse. Now, the advantage of the gas tube protectors are they trigger quicker, 10 to 15 nanoseconds. Okay, and they have higher surge handling, which is going to be great for lightning-prone areas. Hello, Central Florida. They also present less wear and tear on the connected equipment, and the best thing about the carbon blocks, they're resettable. Once that voltage dissipates, it resets itself and goes back to working. The downside, they're slower to activate than solid state, right? And that slight delay could cause a voltage spike, and since most stuff in today's environment is solid state equipment, that's going to cause you some problems. But they're still widely used and they're still accepted to use. Now, the best of the best is going to be solid state protectors. They trigger in about 3 to 5 nanoseconds, right? They use this semiconductor material. What it does is it clamps that voltage energy and it shunts it. And they usually trigger between 150 and 300 volts. They're highly precise and they're very good for sensitive electronics. The downside to that is they have lower surge handling capability. They can degrade over a period of time with repeated hits. And probably the biggest downside to it is they're expensive. They are expensive. I used to tell people the solid state protectors were red in color. I recently came across a job site where the solid state protectors were black, but they said solid state on it. So you know me, I don't do what the code says. I do higher than the standards. I usually do the best practices or the manufacturer requirements. So the BICSI ITSA manual and the 607 standard both emphasize that you really want to make sure that you have proper primary protection because it is a life safety issue. Best practice, gas tube protector, combined with a solid state secondary protector. That combo is going to give you a lot of protection higher protection than a gas tube will, and faster clamping and precision that the solid state uses. So you get kind of like the best of both worlds. Here's the thing you need to know. Whatever lightning protection system you buy, it's got to be listed to be compliant with UL 497. UL 497. And it's got to be bonded to a ground. Bonded to a ground. Okay. So always use gas tube protectors. Back them up with the solid state protectors. Don't ever use the carbon blocks. They're old stuff, right? So there you go. Let's go back over to the chat box. Let's see what we got here. I have a grounding question. Should we always locate the primary bonding bus bar near the main electrical entrance or near the telecom entrance if they are far from each other? So you always want to keep your conductors as short as possible. So actually what the standards actually tells us is you really want to try to keep the grounding electrode within 30 feet of where the primary bonding bus bar is. So that usually means the grounding electrode is usually going to be in a different spot. Now, the BICSI best practice tell us that we're permitted by the AHJ, the authority having jurisdiction. We should run a bonding conductor from the primary bonding bus bar to the electrical distribution panel. We're permitted by code. And that's going to equalize out the potential for those two. Right? Alrighty. Sean, looks familiar, sticker and all. Alrighty. Okay. I am a PE who manages Division 2728. How do you deal with weak, low voltage trade partners, for example, project manager foremen, who do not do any progress walks, take notes, communicate, coordinate, or look at the schedule? Help! So, I need to know a little more information about this. What do you have in the contract? Do you have in the contract that they got to do weekly walkthroughs? Do they have to communicate with you? I'll have to put some thought into that one, Anthony, because I've never been one of those types of people. So I'm going to put some thought into Anthony, and I'm going to answer that question on next week's. In fact, let me take a screen snapshot so I don't forget. Okay, that's going to be a great question for next week. Because I really don't. I'm already 2 minutes over, and Mama's out there cooking dinner. Oh my gosh, it smells so delicious. Oh, my stomach is just gurgling right now. So, alrighty. Are there any other certifications than BICSI that sets the bar for me to send to my techs, other than manufacturer certification? Yes, there are. FOA, Fiber Optic Association, they have copper and fiber installations. Light Brigade, they just came out with copper and fiber certifications. Those are the two big ones I know off the top of my head. So check them out, and they can help you there. So let me see. Alrighty, nobody has any questions there. Let's go ahead and turn this thing off, and I'm gonna go eat me some dinner.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low-voltage industry connects. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew. Got questions or ideas for the show? Chuck wants to hear from you. Stay connected, stay informed, and always aim for excellence. Until next time, keep those cables clean, your standards high, and your future bright. Let's talk cabling, empowering the industry one connection at a time.